This is a perfect vacation thriller whilst also being a sizzling domestic noir with some very unsuspecting characters.
Hello, Tandem fandom, and welcome to the final video in our Thrills and Chills case file YouTube series. On this series, we have previously dived into every book that we have covered for our Thrills and Chills hero read alongs, and I have absolutely loved this campaign and running through these books with you. This video covers our last title, which is His First Wife by Sue Watson. So first up, as always, you are going to see my conversation with our go-to thriller girly and super sleuth extraordinaire, Francesca Pavis.
Francesca, welcome to what is in fact the last Thrills and Chills case file review.
No, but what a book to end on. It's as if you picked this specially for me.
I feel like we're going out on a super high note.
hmm
So, if you haven't already guessed, it is, of course, His First Wife by Sue Watson. Francesca and I are going to sit and have a little bit of a coffee and a bit of a chat about the book, and then you can catch up with Sue just after us here. So, Fran, do you want to give us a one-line introduction to His First Wife?
Yeah, I feel like this is a perfect vacation thriller whilst also being a sizzling domestic noir with some very unsuspecting characters.
I love it. I love it. That was the main vibe that I took away from this book, is that I was like, yes, I'm reading this in my garden. And when I was reading it, it was very sunny outside in England, but I
hmm
wished that I was on a beach somewhere.
Yeah. I always wish that I'm on a beach somewhere when I'm reading.
That's true.
But this book, I kind of did feel like I was there. I've
Yeah.
never been to Sicily, but I could kind of picture it.
Yeah, it's the heat of the Mediterranean plus just
Mm.
like an Aperol spritz in the afternoon, some pasta, just good vibes all around.
Yeah, maybe we should host our next book club there.
Sold. I'm sold. I don't even know what book it is and I'm sold.
Yeah, me and you both.
Okay, so you love a domestic read. You definitely sway that way
Mm.
in terms of general preferences. How did you find this book?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I feel like it's my favorite tropes, like within one book, which I think made it like such a standout. As I said, it's very vacation vibes, it's very domestic noir, and I also feel like it was fantastic because our main character was British but residing in Sicily, so it was kind of like a little bit more relatability. She was kind of like mentioned like not wanting to go back to her like old life and things like that, which were for some suspicious reasons, but also like it felt very much like she was enjoying time being in the Mediterranean as well. And I thought, yeah, so would I go.
Yeah, God, yeah. I feel like as I was reading this book, I was reading it and making a note in my head, Francesca will enjoy this one. And every time
hmm
Abby, who is Sophie's like uh next door neighbor, every time they had an interaction, I was like, I can't wait to talk to Fran about this. I wonder what she thinks of Abby.
I have to say, I was extremely suspicious of Abby. No more words
100%.
than that. But I have to say, she was a little bit too quiet in parts.
But you know what? There wasn't a moment in this book where I don't think I wasn't suspicious of anyone.
I completely agree. And I think because there was such a small character pool in this book in an amazing
Mm,
way, you were kind of like naturally suspicious of everybody because you're
yeah.
like, surely the author's written some of these characters into the story to be suspicious, or and of course some of them are going to have some involvement at some point. But I think that's what makes it such like a easily digestible book because you're not trying to keep track of like the 30 plus characters. Um, I didn't do a character count, but I very easily could like feel each character with its own distinct voice.
Yeah. I like a complex book, but I also don't always want to have to rely on a like character cheat sheet at the front of a book.
Yes,
Because trust
so
me, on Kindle, that's actually quite hard. It was definitely fixed cast, but perfectly formed.
yeah.
I feel like I didn't trust anyone. I didn't hate anyone. I didn't love anyone. I definitely had mixed emotions for everyone across the board. And I think that was entirely what the author wanted you to have.
Yeah.
And this did completely tick the like holiday horror,
Mm,
domestic noir on vacation, travel thriller for me. I know
mm.
that you travel a lot. Are you like a travel thriller?
I love a travel thriller. I really do. I'm very much somebody who reads what's going on in their life at the moment, like a
Hmm.
mood reader to the extreme. So, like, if I am on a flight, you best believe I'll pick up a thriller book about a plane. Like I have no hesitation whatsoever.
So lucky for us, this book takes place in Sicily. The main part of the book is in Taormina. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And then about the 70% way, we head over to the kind of like desolate, barren, volcanic space around Etna, which I
hmm
thought was a really interesting setting. I've never read
Mm.
anything even remotely set similar to that.
Yeah, it was kind of like locked room. That aspect of it was kind of like locked
Yeah,
room thriller, but almost like to the extreme. Like you were
yes,
like barren. It's not just like a ski cabin that's like been snowed in.
yeah. And I think those two settings are like polar ends of the scale as well.
Mm.
Like you've got this hot, bustling, busy city with traffic and cars and noise, and then you've got this just nothing for
hmm
miles. And I feel
Mm.
like that probably translates really cinematically. I would love to watch this as a film.
Yeah.
I feel like it would, not a TV show. I feel like for me, this is a film.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
Some thrillers, I think, work better as a TV show,
Yeah.
but this one I would love to see as a film.
Yeah. I think thrillers that are written very much in parts could work as TV shows better. I think sometimes there's like a huge, maybe like a third of the way through, there's a huge like voice change, like a huge
Yeah.
narrative change. I think those types of books could work well, but as you say, I definitely agree this is a film for me as well.
Speaking of TV and film dramas,
Mhm.
I know that in the next interview, past version of Lex asks Sue Watson who she would cast in the screen adaptation of his first wife. So who would you cast?
I'm keen to know who the author's going to cast now, but that's coming after, so I guess you
I
can't
can't tell
spoil
you.
it.
There'll be a hole in the space-time continuum if I tell you.
Yeah, too much, too much. Like what Doctor Who wants to be.
Exactly.
I would cast as Emilio. I would probably cast the man of the moment, Michelle Marone. He seems to be in a lot of adaptations and a lot of films in general, that are just like big hits at the moment. But I feel like his sort of vibe of the characters he's played previously, because that's all I've got to go on, right? I don't know him personally. Um, Seems to really fit this character. Kind of shady, like seems to have his own agenda. Is he a good guy? Is he
Hmm.
a bad guy? Like we don't really know. And then for Sophie, I would cast someone that's like quite unsuspecting. Now, I do love a simple favor and another simple favor. So my casting is going to be Anna Kendrick, but I don't necessarily mean Anna Kendrick in general, just like somebody who could play that kind of like girl next door, unsuspecting role and then
Yeah.
turn into a badass, that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
And yourself?
Interesting. Well, I had to look the guy up again because for whatever reason, I just can't retain his name in my head. But have you seen Love Actually?
Yes.
You know the guy who works in the office, his name is Carl, and he keeps trying to sleep with his like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
this guy, Rodrigo
I can't picture him.
Santoro.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this
Yeah,
is
yeah, I
Emilio
think
for
I
me.
know.
Like we'll
Mm,
dirty him up, we'll make him a little
yeah,
bit more like shadowed and
yeah.
like
More
horrified.
stubble, a few
Yeah.
tattoos. That, yeah, yeah,
And then I said this to Sue. I think Sophie Turner for Sophie
yeah.
would actually be great.
Yeah, I think they're kind of the same vibes that I
Yeah,
was going for. Anna Kendrick, Sophie Turner, that kind of play.
great. So
Mm.
if you
What
don't
about,
like any of our casting, Sue has got some more casting for you. And then I want to hear in the comments who you think you would cast for his first wife when you read it.
mm.
I
Did
feel
you
like
cast
I
one for
interrupted you.
Sabrina?
Did I cast anyone for Sabrina? I didn't, but I do have an immediate suggestion.
Mm.
And I wonder if we'd pick the same person.
Spur of the moment, go for it.
Jenna Ortega.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. I could see
Like
that.
a little
I don't know if she's too cool
sexy.
though.
You just told me you thought Sabrina was cool.
I do think Sabrina's cool. I think Sabrina's cool. I don't know if other people think Sabrina's cool. I just love the badass women characters. Just do whatever the hell they want. They just don't care. Like,
Yeah.
but I think some people could interpret her as an antagonist, definitely. So,
I did. I think she was kind of that character that I almost like loved to hate her.
Yeah, and I think you will be in the majority there, Lex. I think this is definitely my minority opinion.
But like again, she falls into that category of I didn't trust her. I didn't know whether she was good,
No.
didn't know whether she was bad, didn't know where to put her.
Mm.
But now that we're casting people, everyone else, who would you have as Sabrina?
Mm. Do you know, I don't. I actually don't have a dream.
Okay.
I can't. I have like such a clear picture of her in my head that nobody could fill the shoes of Sabrina. Nobody could. She's my favorite. But I will say, if we are casting other people, I think, and I don't know if she was written like this in the book, but in my head, Gina is a redhead.
Interesting. Okay, not who I've got in my head.
No, and I don't think I think that would be definitely a unique interpretation. But I feel like really like luxurious, almost like
Yeah.
auburn hair, like really long and like just very like regal, luxurious, and everything's like old money.
Yeah, I love that when you read a book and you're just so set on what that character looks like or how that character behaves, but it's never written on the page that it's that way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't remember reading it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but
For me, Gina is like a mishmash.
yeah.
If Catherine Zeta-Jones was like 20 years younger,
Oh yeah.
meets Priyanka Chopra,
Oh
like the sex and the glamour of
yeah,
Priyanka Chopra with the kind of Italian influence of Catherine Zeta-Jones, I'm just like,
yeah,
okay, maybe,
yeah.
maybe. We're talking high budget here, is what we're saying.
We're talking. Let us speak to a film production company. That's what we're talking.
I literally say this to Sue in the next clip where I'm like, "Hey, look, you used to work in TV.
Yeah,
Get your phone numbers in order. Start making some phone calls, and I'll see you on that red carpet."
yeah. See you there, Sue.
So we've done characters, we've done location. The one thing that we haven't talked a lot about is this like slightly more artistic, literary approach to the volcano. So
Mm,
spoilers, no spoilers. There is a volcano in this book. And all of our, what I will say, viewers, all of our kind of content and reading of this book happened prior to the recent Etna eruptions. So just please be aware of that as
mhm.
we talk about this, as you see the next interview with Sue as well. But Francesca, have you read a thriller with a kind of geographical, no, geological element to it, like a volcano in it previously?
No, I was thinking before I don't think I've ever read anything that's that closely linked to some sort of
Mm,
geographical event. I mean, I've read a lot of like destination thrillers that are set
hmm
in specific countries, maybe specific climates, but not to have that much almost of an influence, no.
Yeah. I
Have you?
never have. No, I haven't ever. I think I've definitely picked up books that I think have a mountain on the cover that maybe look like it could be
Mm.
a volcano, and maybe there's a little mysteriousness about it. But
Hmm.
this is the first time that I've read something that is categorically, there is a volcano in this book. And I do think there's quite a clever link between this volcano. Will it erupt? Won't it erupt?
Yeah.
Where is it in its kind of like dormant state? And all of these characters. Do
Mm.
we trust them? Don't we trust them? Can I rely on you? I don't know. And I liked
Yeah.
that a lot about this book.
Yeah, it was almost like a geographical mirror on what was going on with the characters at the
Yes.
time. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is one of the only books I've actually kind of read into the. It almost feels like deeper themes. Typically, I'm more of a popcorn thriller reader. I love a story for the plot. I love a story for the vibes and how it made me feel. But I think there was something a little bit more poetic to this one, while still
Yeah.
being a really easy to read book. But it's almost a comparison that you really can't ignore.
hmm Yeah, I think you're right. I like this book because if you want to go into it just with a popcorn
Mm.
mindset, you can. That's totally fine. You're going
Hmm.
to have a riot. It's going to be great. But also, if you want to think a little bit more about the kind of societal elements or kind of
Yeah.
red herrings or other like fragments of stories that you're being like fed through, I think you can as
Mm.
well. And that's where I've had a bit of fun recently.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one of the only other books that's kind of even been similar maybe was The Hike by Lucy Clarke, because that was
Mm,
set, of course, on a hike that was in, I believe, like the Norwegian mountains, but it wasn't something as specific as being set near a volcano and also then naming that volcano that's actually in our real lives day to day
yeah.
as well. I think a lot of authors tend to err away from that and make up fictional and like fictionalized accounts of different areas. And I guess that means that they can kind of work it more how they need to in their story. So I thought it was interesting this author leaned into a real, like actual geographical place.
Yeah. And I know that it's because she loves Sicily. Like she's
Yeah.
been on vacation. That interview is coming next. So readers, I'm going to zip it now and let Sue do the talking. But I can't recommend this book highly enough for summer. I had such a nice time just sat in the sunshine
Mm.
reading it. We have a downloadable pasta recipe that Sue has been so kind to write out for us. So if you want to dedicate a proper evening to enjoying His First Wife, then I can recommend an Aperol Spritz, this book, and pasta alla norma, which is the recipe from Sue, which you can get in the description below.
Right. I
So
wish you'd talked about that before I read this, Lex.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Okay, okay. We can have a redo.
Yeah. But for now, Fran, that was our last ever case file. So thank you so much for coming to hang out and joining us
Yes,
for this
you're welcome.
entire 6 months of a year. Can you
I
believe it?
know. 6 months almost feels like we should keep going.
And with that, we'll see you again soon, sometime.
Amazing. Cheers.
And now you are going to see an interview with Sue Watson, an author who I think we have a lot in common. And I really love that a lot when you get to know an author and you realize that these authors are real people and they feel the same way that you feel. So roll the interview with Sue.
Welcome, Sue. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us for our Thrills and Chills investigation into His First Wife. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm great today.
Good.
It's
I'm so
horrible
glad
and
to have
rainy
you.
outside. Yeah, it's horrible and rainy outside, and my cat keeps asking me to turn the rain off, but I can't do that. So he may join us at some point to complain about that because obviously I haven't got time to turn the rain off yet. So, but yeah,
I mean,
all good.
I'm looking forward to it. We love a pet interruption.
Yeah, good, good. I'm glad about that. Thank you.
So listen, this is the first book that I have read from you, and having finished it, I already know that I need to jump into the backlist because I love your tone, your atmosphere. I love these characters. So I just know that I'm going to love the way that you've done other books. But can you give us a bit of a nutshell as to how you arrived here?
Oh, thank you. Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, just as short as I can. Basically, I've always written. I did A-level English. I did an English and drama degree because I was going to be a famous Hollywood actress. That didn't work out. So then I ended up in journalism and I worked for The Sun. And I met lots of actresses and I did lots of interviews and wished I could be one, but still, I never, And then I went to work for the BBC and I was a producer there for 10 years. And all the time, I did throughout my life make notes about books and about what I'd quite like to write titles sometimes and just concepts really and ideas. And I decided to basically give it a go. So about 13 years ago, I started to write and I wrote some rom-coms and I think I wrote 12 rom-coms and they were all about cake and not all about cake, but mostly about cake and that sort of thing. And they were all funny and light and about, women finding themselves and looking for men and various different things. And the problem was towards the end, my editor said to me, these are great, but we can't have dead bodies in a rom-com, really. You can't keep killing people off which and she'd always stop that before it even got to publishing stage, so or
Hmm.
editing stage even, which was mean of her really, but
How
but she was
rude.
absolutely right. And it was rude and insensitive because I did want I had bloodlust and she wasn't
Yeah.
letting me live it. So I basically said, look, I've loved doing the rom-coms, but there's really only so much I can write about cake and women finding themselves. I now need to do something else. And my publisher at the time and editors were so brilliant and just said, okay, then I think it was a case of put your money where your mouth is. You think you can do this. But the thing is, I'd always read psychological thrillers. I didn't even read rom-coms at the time, and I kind of that was it felt like a natural home. And so my first thriller did really well, and so that was Our Little Lies. It did really well, and after that, that was it really. I've
Hmm.
now I think I'm 14 or 15 thrillers in, writing them anyway, and that's where I am, and it feels like my natural home. I love doing the rom-coms. I probably again part of my process. I needed to just get into writing. And that was a lovely way in. And my daughter used to come home from school and I'd be sat laughing at what I'd written, which she said, "Oh, Mum, you're writing again, are you?" Yeah, and it's like, "Oh dear," and I just used to enjoy that. And I do miss having a laugh at my computer now. I can't do
Hmm.
that. Sometimes I scare myself, but other than that, I do I do enjoy it.
Good. Okay, well, I am personally very glad that you landed in crime thriller and that's where you've made your home. But of course, in this book, we do also have a very central love story.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of perhaps a bit different for me. I don't do a lot. I have got there's always a little bit of romance here and there, but yeah, this is quite central. So it is a bit of a move for me, really, because a lot of my characters are often already married, slightly older,
Hmm.
or have been, and have sinister husbands. Really, you write from life, don't you?
Mm.
And my husband can be sinister. Not really. So yeah, you're right. It is a central love story, and it was inspired really by a holiday I had in Sicily with my husband, my sinister husband, and he and I were just. It was just the most amazing place, and I just imagined what it would be like to be single there and young and meeting somebody who lived there, and with the sort of I mean, there's no gangster or mafia in it, but Sicily has this dark underbelly, really, of the past, the mafia, and while I was there, despite the fact that we were in Taormina, which was beautiful, and where White Lotus is set, the Sicilian one, it was absolutely gorgeous. But at the same time, you were very much aware of the past, and there's this sort of folklore of if you've been to Sicily, you'll know that there's ceramic heads everywhere.
Mm.
It's part of it's sort of an icon of Sicily, really, and it's called the Testa di Moro. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Um, yeah, I think I'm pronouncing it right. And it's basically a man's head, and there are women's heads as well, but it's based on the folklore of this couple who he was a lot older than her. She was young and beautiful. They fell madly in love, and she found out he was married. And so she killed him. And in the end, she obviously, what do you do when you've severed somebody's head off? The obvious thing is to turn the head into a plant pot.
Clearly.
And so, that's what we all do. We would all do, wouldn't we? And she seeded basil in there. She planted basil into this pot, and it did so well. All her neighbours wanted the same kind of pot, so they made theirs out of ceramic because they thought hers was ceramic, but obviously it wasn't. And it was
Hmm.
doing really well, this basil, because of course you know, it was buried with human flesh and everything else in there.
Hmm.
So, which is always good for fertile soil. And so I loved the idea of this, and it was so horrible and gory and
Mm.
drastic, and I just thought, gosh, it just kind of echoed Rebecca vibes. I mean, I don't think my book isn't gothic but it's just inspired by this idea of a new partner having potentially dark past, and I
Hmm.
just love that idea because when you first meet somebody, even in the first few months, you never know who they are or what they are, and you don't know about their past, and they don't know about yours because our main character in this, the female protagonist, has her own dark past as well. So it's quite interesting the way she's hiding hers, but trying to reveal his, and is
Hmm.
concerned about his too. Yeah, and that kind of was inspired by the trip to Sicily completely,
Well,
and
I'm so glad that I'm not the only person that goes on vacation and immediately starts thinking about the bad and terrible things that could
oh yeah,
go wrong.
yeah. I mean, it makes a change from thinking about the cakes, which was obviously with the rom-coms. You see, I'd
Yes,
rather think about the
different.
dark, twisted, dark, sinister side. Yeah, much more fun. Yeah.
And I love that Sicilian folklore element to it, because you have that, and then of course you've got this other confluence, or like maybe like it's a metaphor is a better word, where we have our main male character Emilio, who is a volcanologist. Is that the right
Yeah,
word?
yeah,
Studying Etna.
yeah,
This like will it, won't it? And as we've quite realized in current day, yes, it
yeah.
will. Yes.
I think that happened just for my book launch.
I mean, I thought it was promotional
Yeah,
marketing, yes.
yeah, it was, and it worked. I think,
Mm.
I think it worked. So yeah, I went to a lot of trouble for that to happen. Obviously,
That
um,
that's big budget marketing stunts for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't believe it when that happened. But I keep, in the book, it's stressed a few times. This could happen any time. Etna can erupt at any time, and of course,
Mm.
Etna is a metaphor for the relationship, for the man. He's this brooding, dark presence, and Etna itself, when you go there, you go to Sicily, it's everywhere. Wherever you look, there's always the shadow of Etna. And this reminder that, this could happen at any time. And there's smoke still, emanating from Etna. And I just love that idea, that brooding, dark presence
Mm.
throughout the novel, really. So it was a great metaphor. And I mean, it sound like a bit sort of like I'm being literary, but there's a whole part of Thomas Hardy's Tess where she goes to work on a farm and the weather's bad and it's horrible and dark and it's a dark time in her life. And I kind of send my characters to Etna
Mm.
and to work because he needs to work there. And it's a dark grey, and it really is. We went there when we went on holiday there, and it's just grey everywhere. The gravel on the ground and the hilly bits and obviously Etna itself. It's just smoke in the air and grey on the ground, and it's quite depressing. But when you're in love, first that grey can seem silver, and it's the
Mm.
idea of these changing the climate effect, how nature is part of who we are, and it reflects us sometimes and we reflect it. And I just loved that about Sicily, really, because again, you've got in the main part of Taormina, you've got this beautiful high street with Dior and Chanel shops on, and
Mm-hmm.
this all this gorgeous little cafes, and juxtaposed with this grey landscape, the real nature and the real force. You know, money and Christian Dior mean nothing in the force of this huge
Yeah.
volcano and nature. So I just love that juxtaposition of the two lives, really.
Yeah, like I feel like the use of Etna was so clever in this book, because as you've discussed it, it means so many things and it's reflective of so many different elements of this story. Like we can look at the beginning of this relationship when everything is fiery and explosive and sexy and cool. And obviously there is that great, cool, sexy volcano element there too. But of course there
Yeah,
is that underlying, you know, edge of your seat life or death situation there too. And then you said something just then which made me think, in the shadow of Etna, and Etna always being kind of in your periphery, it made me think about, like you said, the secrets that both Sophie and Amelia have. They're plowing on with their own lives, but there is still that secret past
yeah,
thing, like just lingering
always
just
there.
there, which you did masterfully, by the way. Sophie is obviously very aware of her own past, and we see so much of the book through Sophie's eyes, so that we don't know what her past is because she doesn't need to tell herself. She's been through it, but it means that we are hanging on her every word, going, well, what on earth does that mean then? And it's brilliant. Honestly, it kept me gripped. I think I messaged you at the time when I was reading it, and I said, I have just sat in my garden and completely finished this book in about 3 hours. And I had so much work to do, Sue, and I just didn't do it because I was reading your book.
Oh, that's lovely to know. It's lovely to hear because you don't know when you write a book. You think you've got some of it, you don't, and I never read my books again because I would see so much in them that
Mm.
I'd feel I needed to change. But I think you did send me that message, and I remember being really delighted. You said something like the heat, the panic, the I can't remember.
Yeah,
There were
yeah.
three words, and it was just like great. If that's what you're getting from this, that's brilliant. That's what I wanted to do, and thank you. That means a lot. Yeah.
I think it was the atmosphere that when I was reading it, I was so charged by, because in the heat of Sicily, obviously, like that again, it can be very nice. You're like, oh, it's such a warm Mediterranean, relaxing vibe. But then also you
Yeah.
pair that with the heat of panic and claustrophobia and this would-be potential stalker, and then of course Etna as well. It just feels like a roller coaster. Were you like, do you experience any of that panic as you're writing it, or is it just like pure knowing that you're going to put your readers through this?
No, I do feel it, and it's interesting, and that's kind of why I mentioned before. I used to work in a theatre, and my dream was to be an actress. That was what I was always going to be, and I think that this is why I became a writer, because I realised I couldn't be an actress. I was a mum, and I was busy, and I couldn't go off and
Hmm.
So I, what I find writing books, I put myself into the situation as an
Hmm.
actress would put themselves into a play or a drama, and I feel everything. And it sounds really dramatic and pretentious, but it's actually quite exhausting. And I
Mm.
don't think unless you are a really avid reader or a writer, you can kind of get that. I don't think, if you don't read, you wouldn't get that, because it really is. And I am a procrastinator, and I do sometimes feel, am I procrastinating when I say I can't do that scene right now because I don't have the energy? I'm such a drama queen. I should have been a lovey, really. And I really can't. I have to go and have, tons of cake, or, groom
Hmm.
the cat or something in order to get myself geared up for it. And sometimes I've spoke, writer friends of mine will say, I can't do that scene today because I'm just not in the mind. And sometimes you have to
Hmm.
put the scene aside. So yeah, I do. I feel everything. And it is quite dramatic. And sometimes, and perhaps not with this book, because I really kind of knew exactly where I was going with this book. With some books I've written, I don't know who the killer is, or who baddie is, or who, and obviously I have to go back over and edit it. But in the first draft, I write it, and if I don't know, then the reader won't know. And then
Yeah.
obviously I go breadcrumb it and make it,
Hmm.
work. But I quite like writing like that too, because then I'm really scared, because I don't know who to trust either. And then my
Yeah.
characters, they're out of my head. I don't know whether I can trust them or not. And I love that. I like the unexpected part of
Hmm.
it. Um, and a lot of my writing I do at night,
Okay.
because it's a time when nobody's around, and it's just me. And my husband goes to bed about 11. And I think, right, the football's off the telly, the cricket's off the telly. He always has balls on the television, and it's all off, and it's quiet and calm. And I think, oh, this is nice now. So me and the cat, we'll do a few chapters till about 2 in the morning, and it's that
Hmm.
little heartbeat next to me on the sofa, a little heartbeat, so I'm not completely alone. But sometimes I can scare myself, if I'm
Yeah.
writing a scene where somebody's in a house on their own and there's somebody at the window and those kind of things, I can freak myself out. But actually, it kind of helps me writing, because I'm feeling it so much. I know how,
Hmm.
I've got the dry throat, and it's interesting, really. You really do have to throw yourself into it, I think, to get that full, impact,
I
really.
love that. And I love that you have to wait for darkness to fall to really enter into the world. I think I would
Totally.
so much rather an author write like that than write the most grueling dramatic chapter in the world and be like, right, what's for lunch then? Like that
Yeah.
feels almost like detached a little bit.
Yeah, and also the daytime, it's like now. Again, it's partly to do with my procrastinating nature. I will always find something in the day to distract myself. My
Sure.
husband works from home 3 days a week, and I'll be like, do you want a coffee? And he's like, no, I'm busy. And I'm like, then I'll say, shall we have a water cooler moment? So we have a water cooler moment, and it's always me. And then I go, oh, well, Nick's home, I can't work. Well, of course I can. I'm
Yeah.
just using him as an excuse. And then, oh, the cat needs grooming. He doesn't, we never groom him. It's just my excuse. So I find these small things to do. Whereas at night time, I can't blame anybody. I can't accuse anybody of distracting me. And nobody's texting me. My friends aren't calling me to say, come for a coffee, let's
Hmm.
do lunch, and I can still do lunch and coffee then, because I'm working in the
Yeah.
night. So I get the best of both worlds as well, really. It sort of ties in. But definitely with thrillers, the night time is definitely the time
Hmm.
just to throw yourself into it. And yeah, and it's because I like watching and reading things like that. It's quite nice to write this. So, it becomes a pleasure in the end. It's just getting that first draft
Yeah. Where are
right.
you in your like your writing like calendar at the moment? Are you editing or drafting or?
I'm drafting.
Okay.
And it's actually my least favorite part of writing, to be honest. I mean, I love writing, but this is my least favorite part.
Yeah.
I really have to drag myself to the desk or to the sofa even. I actually work from the sofa because it feels like I'm not working. Then I
Yeah.
convince myself that I'm not working. So I have my laptop on my knee and the cat at my side, and I just write or not. Because the
Mm.
problem is I look for any kind of procrastination. So I can groom the cat, I can teach him tricks, I can do anything vital like that,
Yeah.
but I can't actually sit down and write. And that's my problem. And every morning with the first draft, I say to myself, right, I'm going to do 2,000 words minimum. I'm going to have 1,500 calories maximum, and I'm going to walk 10,000 miles. Sorry, not 10,000 miles,
10,000
10,000 steps.
miles?
10,000
Oh
miles.
my gosh,
I
Sue.
just do that afternoon. 10,000 steps. So if 10,000 steps, 1,500 calories, and 2,000 words, that would be my perfect day. And I'd be so pleased with myself. And achieving those three is just impossible. And I rarely do it. The only thing I do achieve the 10,000, but it's usually calories and everything else is, thrown to the wind. So yeah, it's hard. I find that the hardest part. And
Mm.
I, because as they say, you can't edit a blank page. So what I do is I write the first chapter and then I spend the first 2 or 3 days editing that and re-editing it because I just need to get into it. I suppose it's my process, but I like to give it some, you know,
Hmm.
justification and say that's my process. But I think it's just me procrastinating. And once I'm in it, I'm not so bad. But I'm at that process at the moment. I'm sort of in the
Okay.
first few chapters, and I know where I'm going, but it's getting there. It's just getting there. I just need to, drive really.
Okay, I am dying to hear about your reading preferences and what you like to read and things like that. But before we go there, I would also love to talk about your characters. Like when you're writing Emilio and Sophie, and we will keep it spoiler free here. We're not doing any spoilers, but I would love to hear about any of these characters that you have loved to write, or any of them that were a bit trickier, or do you just intuitively follow them a bit like you've described? Do you see them in your mind when you write?
Yeah, I do. And again, it's a first draft thing. It is intuitive. The first draft is the characters sort of emerge, but for me, it's almost, I think that my process is quite late in the edit. I
Hmm.
start to see them. I can see them physically, but by the sort of second or third edit, that's when they kind of come alive for me, and I can see them. So there is a character which I don't even know if I might even mention that she's like this in the book. I can't remember, but she's Miriam Margolyes to me.
Mm. Yeah.
And she's lovely and funny and she swears and she's just
Hmm.
outrageous. And I love those characters. And I've always enjoyed writing characters like that because I think they're just fun and you do need in the darkness you do need some light.
Yes.
Um, so I think for me, if I can sometimes get either a friend or somebody I know or somebody a famous person in
Hmm.
my head, I can then build on the basic character that I've built by the
Yeah.
third edit. I'm sort of now adding, she's like, and I can see suddenly think, she's like whoever, and then I build
Hmm.
on that, and I like to follow that. So I suppose it's a bit of both, really. I sort of layer the characters as we go along because sometimes I am a bit of a chaotic. I'm a pantster. I don't plan too much. I
Okay.
just write a synopsis and go, really.
Yeah.
And so for me, I don't always know. Sometimes I even change who the baddie is halfway
Yeah.
through because your characters, again, it sounds a bit pretentious, but they do talk to you, and you do think you're really evil, actually, even though
Yeah.
I've written you as you're actually quite dark. And so that way you can build them and turn them into something else that you hadn't really planned to. And
Hmm.
I like that flexibility really. And I've always had really lovely editors who have said, okay, that's who you want to, you don't have to, I don't stick always by the synopsis, but I
Yeah.
do use the synopsis as a sat nav really, just to get me to the down the road really and
Hmm.
to the destination. But in the middle, all sorts of detours happen. That's how it works really, I suppose, for most people.
Yeah. Well, listen, I completely agree with our casting director hats on. I would completely agree with Miriam Margolyes. She is on the casting list for sure. We'll get that contract sorted, no problem. Do you have any actors or actresses in mind when you think about Sophie and Emilio.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that then. I just had a feel. For me, oh, no, not
Emilio
really.
came
I suppose,
easy to me. Like the person that I think about for
yeah,
Emilio came easy to me. Sophie, I'm a little bit stuck on.
right. Okay, well, I'll ask you in a minute. But I suppose for Sophie, the person, if I had to, would be a young. It would. I love Rosamund Pike. Might be a Gone Girl thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I love her, and I think she. But it would have to be or a young. It's have to be somebody sort of in the late 30s, really. So no, there's nobody really springs to mind. She's beautiful, and she doesn't know it. But no, I don't know.
Mm.
Who have you got in mind? I can see her, but she isn't famous to me.
So I think it was the name that got me there, but actually a young Rosamund Pike kind of gives me Sophie Turner vibes.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. And is
Like,
that who you?
yeah, that's who I was thinking of. And I want in my head, she is very different from who I've cast as Amelia, and that works as well.
Ah,
So
yeah,
have you seen Love Actually?
yes,
You know Carl from The Office that Laura Linney is always trying to go on a date with?
yes. What's
Him.
his name? Yes,
I've just
yes.
looked it up because I'm not very good with
Oh,
names. Apparently,
no,
his
I'm
name
not.
is Rodrigo Santoro.
Oh, he'd be perfect. Yes, he would be perfect.
Like him, obviously in Love Actually, he's very sweet, but I think you
But
could like darken him up, dirty him up, make
yeah,
him a bit more like brooding and mysterious, and I think he'd be
yes.
perfect.
No, he'd be perfect. And as you say, she'd be a perfect foil for that, wouldn't she? Because she's that sort
Hmm.
of fresher, younger, slightly naive, really,
Yeah.
in a way. Because she is quite naive, um, because of her life, but because of what's
Hmm.
happened, not because she's naive. So she's intelligent but naive. Yeah. Oh, I love those two. Let's get them cast. Let's sort it.
Great. We'll
We'll
make the
do that now.
calls. We'll sort it out.
Yeah, yeah. I'll
And then,
speak
of
to my
course,
Hollywood director.
we all have to be there in Sicily on
Absolutely.
set.
On
So,
that red carpet as well, on that red carpet. Yeah, yeah.
Sue, I am
So
liking the look of my life with you.
get that dress sorted.
Got it. Get it booked in, sorted. Okay, so whilst we're daydreaming about our kind of like Sicilian and Hollywood adventures, what are you reading? What are your kind of like cornerstones of psychological thriller genres for you?
Well, again, I'm I have to say, since I started writing psychological thrillers, I haven't read an awful lot. And I mean, I don't
Hmm.
mean I haven't read a lot of. I read on holiday at the moment because I'm so busy. I do
Yeah.
2 books a year, and quite honestly, there's a part of me. If I and I'll tell you who I do read, but there's a part of me that if I read brilliant psychological thriller, it depresses me because I think I'll never do that. I can't write like that. And
Hmm.
equally, if I read a book that isn't so great but has perhaps a brilliant plot or a brilliant idea in it, I feel terrible because I think I can't do that now either because that's been done. So it's a kind of a bit of a mixed bag for me. But when I do read, which as I say isn't very often, my favourite writers are Louise Candlish is my
Yes.
big go-to. Um, and the one that stays with me from her sort of backlist is The Sudden Departure of the Frasers, which
Oh, I don't
never
think I've
gets
read that
mentioned.
one.
Oh my God, it's fantastic, and it's
Okay, I'm
pure. It's
writing it down right
The
now.
Sudden Departure of the Frasers, and it kind of seemed to go a little bit under the radar for me. It's just the perfect book. It's the perfect suburban domestic noir.
Okay.
And it's people with a bit of money living in London in I can't remember where they are now. It's a couple of years ago at the time I read it. But I love her, and I
Hmm.
love Tamar Cohen. Um,
Oh, okay. I've
she
not read by them.
she's written, like, I think it's called The Mistress was the first one I read by her, and then I just went through all of that list. And she writes as Tammy Cohen, more commercial, slightly more commercial
Hmm.
fiction. She's brilliant. I'm gonna forget somebody that I love now. But my inspiration originally, when I first started reading psychological, I lived in London. I was working for a newspaper, and I didn't have any money, so I joined the local library. I was very poor. Joined the local library, and I found this writer called Joy Fielding, and this is like 20 odd years ago now. And she's Canadian, and she's writing again now. She's she's been writing for that long, and she is, to me, just she inspired me. She's the great mistress of misdirection and
Okay.
really hooky. She has really hooky books as well, Harlan Coben style hooks, and I love Harlan Coben too. I love a
Hmm.
good hook where you think that can't possibly happen, but you
Yeah.
know it is going to, you know, and those kind of things. You know, it's meeting somebody that died a year ago, or you know,
Hmm.
Harlan Coben was talking about this recently in something I was watching, and he was saying how he was inspired by somebody who said they'd gone to a funeral of somebody one year, and then the year later they met them, and he thought, wow, that's just great, you know,
Hmm.
and what happened in the meantime, or they thought they'd seen them or something along those lines, and those are the kind of hooks I love.
Yeah.
um, and Joy Fielding and Harlan Coben just get those for me. I'm also a huge John Mars fan as well. I love John
Hmm.
Mars, and I love his dark humour. Um,
Yeah.
and I just finished Keep It in the Family, which just made
Oh
me
my
smile because,
gosh.
oh God, dark, but the twist and
Dark.
I mean, it was like whiplash. You know, it's just
Yes.
brilliant. And I heard it on audio, and it was just fantastic. And I recognised a couple of names in there, an author I know and a book blogger I know. He's used them as,
Hmm.
you know, as terrible criminals, and I love
Yeah.
that. I love the fact that he mixes real life and like his new book. I've not started that yet, but the sort of Strictly Come Dancing. I
Hmm.
love that real life thing that he does as well. Yeah. So you know, I mean, I'll read anything when I've got the time, but it
Yeah.
does tend to be on holiday or when I've got a break between books, really, if I
Yeah.
can, you know. But two
So
books
many
a year doesn't give
authors,
you.
yeah, so many authors say that they love to read, but whilst they're drafting or whilst they're editing, they can't do it. And
It's too much of an influence,
yes,
really. It can be. It can be.
so much of your reading preferences align with mine perfectly. I feel like we could share a bookshelf and get on
Oh, fab. Yes,
quite
that would be
well.
fun. Yes,
Like Louis,
definitely.
I will often say that I think Louise Candlish has written the best first page of crime fiction for Our House,
Oh
when she
gosh, yeah.
realizes that someone else is moving into her
Somebody else
home.
is moving in as she's arriving home. That is just, and again, it's that's that Harlan Coben hook. That kind of,
Yes.
this can't be happening. Oh, but it is. So how is, you know? And you just got to read on, haven't you? Got to read on.
Yeah.
And I love her. I love Lucy Clark. Is it Lucy Clark as well? The one of the girls. I love that one because that
Yeah.
was really. I love the descriptions. And I was just about to say then with Louise Candlish, I love her. I love her prose and the way she conjures up. Have you read The Swimming Pool by
I
Louise Candlish?
haven't. I haven't.
That's
I'm
another one.
a swimming
That's another
pool.
one. It's absolutely beautiful, but dark and twisty. But it's
Hmm.
just so, oh, it's just, yeah, it's really brilliant, you know. And she's got these lovely ways of describing things, and
Yeah.
I like that. I enjoy all that, and even in because I think you can write a psychological thriller, and you can do fantastic twists and a plot and characters, but you've got to be in there in the moment. And
Yes.
even describing food, I love all those. I love every that day-to-day thing we can all relate to, really. As readers, we can
Yes.
relate to. It's important the reader can relate to what you're writing about, I think, most of the time.
God, yeah,
Yeah.
completely. Okay, so my recommendations for you, if you love a hook that makes you say you are never going to be able to pull that off,
Yeah.
are Sophie Hannah. Have you read by Sophie
Yes.
Hannah
Oh,
books?
yes.
My
Yeah, I
favorite
love
Sophie
Sophie.
Hannah would be Haven't They Grown? You read that one?
Yes. Yes, I have. And I'm just trying to remember how it's the two children, isn't it? And
Yes, I can't
yes,
remember.
I do.
Like
Yeah,
again,
I
it's
don't
one
want
of
to give
those.
spoilers, so yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And
But
the
she
other
thinks
author,
basically she sees her children, doesn't she? That
yes,
she doesn't have. I
it's
don't
her
want to give too much
friend's
away.
children, who she's not been friends with this couple for something like 10 to 15 years. And when she sees them again, the children are the same age. And she's
That's
like,
right. That's right.
sorry, what? What?
Yeah.
And the other author who's also brilliant at it is Gillian McAllister.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
I've
Wrong
not
Place,
I've,
Wrong Time was amazing.
really. I need to
Yes.
read. I need to read that. In fact, I'll take that away with me then. That's on my
It's
list.
such a high concept, but like you were saying with, yes, it has to be a good plot and yes, it has to be good characters, but it's got to have that magic running throughout it that make your
Yeah.
readers trust you as an
Yeah.
author, especially if you're trying something high concept. I need to know that the author at least knows where we're going. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Is that the Gillian McAllister one? Is that when she? I haven't read it, but I've seen it and fancied it about the sort of if she could change the past.
Yes, so she's
Yeah.
looking out of her window and she sees her son kill someone in the street outside her window. And then she wakes up the next morning, but it's the previous day's morning.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a
But
fantastic
like
book, isn't it?
like technically it probably is a touch closer to speculative fiction, but I would
Mm,
say it is crime thriller fiction with a very high concept. It was excellent.
wow. Oh, well, that's on my TBR now. Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you. And thank you for coming to hang out with us this afternoon and having a bit of a chat. I can't wait for you to see all of the read along content from all of the
Yes.
creators. I can't wait for them to dive in and for them to get their case file and see the documents and bits and pieces that we've put together for them.
Brilliant.
And last but not least, we have a few comments from our super sleuths who have been on every read along with us this whole year, 6 books, and they are still loving them. So let's hear from them.
Goodness me, couldn't put it down.
This book was bonkers.
His First Wife is everything you want from a summer thriller. It's got vibes of Rebecca, it's got mysterious locations.
It's set in Sicily. I mean, come on, what better location than Sicily? And OMG, what a banger of an ending! Brilliant!
And that's why it's so good, because you don't expect what's coming. There's no way to predicting what's going to come.
And that is all from us here on the Thrills and Chills Super Sleuth case files. Keep an eye out in our newsletter because we will be running some buddy reads throughout the end of the year, and you never know what will come next. So keep an eye out on the Tandem Collective socials and on the hashtag Thrills and Chills readers. Down below in the description is where you can get all the information of all of the other Sue Watson related content that we've produced over the past month. And just another thank you from us for sticking out, watching these videos and having a great time. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you really soon.